She first noticed it on an overcast Sunday afternoon, while hiking through a patch of woods behind her neighborhood. The path wasn't marked, and most people avoided it. The trees grew thick, blocking out the sky, and the ground was uneven, littered with old stone markers poking through the soil. It turned out the woods hid a forgotten cemetery. Most of the headstones were cracked, tilted, or half buried, with names so weathered they were impossible to read. But one grave stood out immediately. It was clean, polished gray stone, and the letters carved into it looked fresh, like it had been etched only yesterday. Her blood ran cold when she read it. The tombstone bore her full name, first, middle, last, and below it, a death date that was still blank. She thought it had to be a prank, someone with the same name, maybe, or some sick joke. But her name wasn't common, and the carving was too precise, too deliberate. She didn't tell anyone. She just walked home fast, trying not to look back. But a few nights later, she was driving back from work when her headlights swept across a clearing near the road. That same gravestone was there, out in the open, not hidden deep in the woods where she'd first seen it. It looked exactly the same, her name, perfectly etched into the granite. Only now, it was closer to her neighborhood. She froze behind the wheel, gripping the steering wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. There was no way. She told herself it was just another stone, a trick of her imagination. She tried to convince herself that maybe someone moved it as a prank, but who would go to that kind of effort, and why would they choose her? The next morning, she returned to the woods to check. The spot where she had first found the stone was empty, just soft dirt and the impression of where something heavy had once rested. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept glancing at her window, half expecting to see it sitting in her backyard. A week passed, and she tried to forget about it. But one night, while walking her dog, she cut through the park at the edge of her street and froze. There it was. The gravestone stood among the trees at the border of the park, her name catching the moonlight like it was waiting for her. And this time, something was different. The death date wasn't blank anymore. It had been carved in. And it wasn't a random date. It was that very night. Her dog began barking furiously, pulling at the leash, but she was too frozen to move. The air felt colder, the trees unnaturally still. Then she heard something, faint, low, like soil shifting. The ground around the stone seemed to heave ever so slightly, as though something beneath it was pushing upward. That broke her paralysis. She ran home, locked the doors, and didn't leave her house until sunrise. The next morning, she convinced herself it had to be her imagination. The grave couldn't move on its own. Someone must be moving it, trying to terrify her. She even thought about contacting the police. But how could she explain it without sounding insane? Later that day, she finally gathered the courage to go back to the park. She needed to prove to herself it wasn't real. But when she got there, the stone was gone again. Relief washed over her until she came home. In her own front yard, just a few feet from her porch, it stood, the gravestone, her name glinting in the afternoon light, the date still carved. The night before, this time there was no denying it. Her neighbors later said they heard screams that night, but no one thought to check until the following morning. When they did, they found the front yard empty. No gravestone, no woman, nothing. The only thing left was a patch of disturbed earth, right where the stone had last stood. And to this day, no one knows who or what keeps carving names into those forgotten graves.